Hello, welcome back to the channel. So you're joining me here again on this nostalgia trip that I'm going down, revisiting the discography of Drake. Last time we went through Room for Improvement, Drake's first official release. You know, it's a mixed bag, obviously viewed better in hindsight, but there's some great tracks on there, and it's nice to watch the growth of the artist from the very beginning to see where he is now. This time around, it's going to be comeback season, sort of to set the scene. Drake is obviously still on Degrassi at this point, but this is the mixtape that catches the ear of Lil Wayne, Young Money, and leads to Drake being signed and all that kind of stuff as well. I personally preferred Comeback Season to Room for Improvement back when I did listen to this. As I said on the previous video, I first got into Drake around the time of Best I Ever Had, when he was first gaining buzz, and all the sort of music we had to dive back into, obviously then, was Comeback Season and Room for Improvement, as well as the newly released So Far Gone. I do remember there being a bit of a step up in sort of mixing quality and in production quality on this tape. Obviously Drake's a little bit further on in his career, so he's growing as an MC as well, and also finding his feet. Obviously he still displays a love of melody throughout his career, but you can see it creeping in more and more on this. And he also pays homage to a lot of influences as well that have shaped him, I would say, which I'll go into more when we get to those actual tracks. There's a fair few standouts on this mixtape for me, and it's great to be able to see now what caught the attention of these major labels, and what it is that they saw in him. I'm sure plenty of them probably didn't see him becoming the star that he is today, but they could at least see that he'd be a great addition to their label. So yeah, Drake's still on Degrassi at this point in his career. I believe this is like a year or two later. Yeah, he's still on the show, still trying to make it in music, still doing both side of things. Do know as well that this is also where Drake sort of started to work a lot closer with Phonte, who would become the architect of his sound on So Far Gone, and obviously beyond that as well. Of course, we've also got Boy Wonder, even an early appearance of T Minus, who is a producer who I was a huge fan of around the Take Care era. I thought he was doing amazing things with production then. Again, we'll talk about that when we get to Take Care. This project holds a lot of memory for me, as in the same way with Room for Improvement and So Far Gone. And all of Drake's music, really, I would say, it was a soundtrack to a lot of my life growing up. And I do think that Drake's one of those artists that really should be appreciated while he's here. He's a living legend, a top 5 in my opinion. Just based on the last 10 years and what he's achieved in rap. I do hope by going down this nostalgia path that we can, really appreciate the work that he's given us in all lanes, really, from a pop side of things, from an R&B side of things, and also from a hip hop side. So, much like Room for Improvement, the first track is originally called Intro. I do believe this is one of the first release songs that was produced by Phonte. So yeah, let's just get into it.
I just hit rock bottom. After this, I don't have a choice. I got people to provide for, promises I made, and goals to meet. What you got?
What have you got? So there's Drake setting the stage for this project. Not really sure what his comeback season really is. As far as I'm aware, he maybe just means coming back from the first mixtape not doing so well, not really catching the attention that he wanted it to. As I said, yeah, it's interesting to hear the early productions of Phonte there, but also the self-prophesizing that Drake does and has done throughout his career. A lot of the things he said in songs and throughout tracks have come to fruition, and we'll see that more as we go through his projects. But yeah, you can see he self-aggrandizes there, builds himself up, and sets the stage for the mixtape to come. The next track is called The Presentation. I do have, again, lots of memories attached to this song. One of my best friends, this is, I think, maybe the first song that he got really obsessed with about Drake. And this song does remind me of one of my good friends. But yeah, let's just get into it.
Shake up the world, that is what I am about to do. And homie, you ain't even on my altitude. I'm like, damn, who's Drake? Where's Wheelchair Jimmy at? On my Chris Brown shit, I'm still here, give me that. Girls miss Drake these days, please don't take offense to my ways. Cause I need drug money, who got drug money?
Straight away, Drake jumps in with, I would say already a clearer delivery than he had on Room for Improvement, whether that's to do with mixing or improvements to his own delivery that he's worked on in between this. It really is a lot easier to hear each rhyme. He's rhyming a lot slower, a lot less rushed than he was on Room for Improvement. It's the same sort of topics, you know, his come up, all the topics you kind of get on a lot of rappers on the come up, really. But yeah, talking about his struggle, his relative struggle, I guess. You know, leaning into that sort of Phonte style of rapping, that little brother style that he did do on Room for Improvement, but he continues that here. It's a smooth beat, laid back, again, usual fare really for Drake at this point in his career. Leaning into those influences pretty heavy, but also, you know, I think showing off his rapping ability, putting himself front and centre as an MC, I guess, on this tape.
I fooled y'all, ain't shit for me to come back from.
I'd like to take this opportunity to formally welcome you to this extravaganza comeback season.
How the fuck James Dame gon' break up? Before they meet Drake, I'm sure it can be resolved. I'm just hoping that they make up. I'm perfecting my craft using Moses. Trying to make some cheese off a single is a process. Get it? Craft, single, cheese, process. Sit back and admire the talent that I possess.
After the beat switch, you can just hear the confidence in Drake. As I said before, he does self-prophesize a lot, and it does feel like throughout this project that he feels like this is the one that's going to get him noticed, this is the one that's going to get him the key to the door to get into this game, to get into this music scene. This track, the presentation, I would say is classic old Drake. It's one of those ones where you can point to and point to his ability as an MC, as a lyricist. It's got those corny early 2000s bars that, you know, you associate with Kanye West. To an extent, Lil Wayne and Eminem as well. But at the same time, he does have the charm, the charisma to carry it off. And you can hear that a lot more already on this first track. And that cheese craft process line still stands up as a fantastic line today.
I'm back with the form like Obis, I go. You can't miss the boy, me and Rich united like Van Nistelrooy.
Mention of Ruud van Nistelrooy, the Manchester United striker from the 90s and early 2000s as well. A niche reference that does date this project a little bit, but at the same time it's interesting again to already see Drake's interest in the UK, which will become much more prominent in his music as time goes on.
Real, no other youngins as hot as me. You a Gucci groupie, my nigga, and I'm a prodigy. Shout out to 4040. Yeah, my right hand.
Perhaps the first reference to 40 on an official release, I believe. As he said there, my right hand, and how prophetic that proves to be as his career goes on. Yeah, the presentation, just as the name suggests, really does set the stage for comeback season, for a more polished project from this up-and-coming artist. The next track is the title track called Comeback Season. As I said in my previous video for Room for Improvement, back at this time, everybody was downloading things from LimeWire, including a lot of viruses. But I used to always get confused between, you know, what song went on Comeback Season, what song went on Room for Improvement, and I used to get confused between the song Come Winter and this one. So I'm sure as soon as I play this, it'll come back to me. But yeah, I'm excited to, you know, re-listen. I remember that. Great song, great beat. I think Boy Wonder. Sounds like a Jay-Z beat.
Got ice all over my windshield. I can tell it's gonna be a cold winter. I hit the defrost, I never turn the heat off. Hey, but dog, you don't know me, you don't know us. We go by the name of ATF.
A really interesting reference there. Drake actually said ATF. It was the clique that he claimed back then. ATF is actually the original OVO, the original October's Very Own. ATF used to stand for All Things Fresh. And was the original name of Drake's group, of his friends that they used to call themselves. They rebranded to OVO, which obviously is how we know Drake now and how we know his label now, with lots of artists obviously signed to it. But it's again so interesting to see. You know, we're seeing the bare bones of the Drake and OVO operation here at its very beginnings, as the foundations are getting put down. And like many different brands go through teething problems, different names, different kind of things like that, and it's great that this is all on record, so we can hear it.
Cause Drake syllables is like Jake Gyllenhaal. Can you with a liar? I'm clearing the air, I'm a humidifier. I'm spitting fire and getting flyer. And what you planning for this summer, I did it prior. Stop checking my style, you in need of your own, man.
Like the presentation, the song Comeback Season just oozes confidence from an MC that, as I said before, just feels like he knows this is the time, this is the one that's going to get him noticed, and that this is the beginning of something special for him, and turns out he was right. Yeah, Comeback Season, as I said, is just a braggadocious example of a rapper, you know, full of confidence and showing some great wordplay as well. As I said before in my previous video, if anyone ever says to you that they don't think Drake can rap, just go back to his early mixtapes. There's obviously plenty of examples, I think, as well, going forward, and more modern recent examples, but go back to his early mixtape, and this is Drake doing traditional hip-hop, and doing it well. Next track is called Closer, featuring Andreena Mill.
Mr. Big Dreams, no tolerance. Cut you at the house and have a holler six. Get bored that it's hard to find a woman when you talented and black. When you saying tank on E, I got the drink on me. You better bet on me to be the one and only nigga that you ain't gon' see. In the club with a model spilling drinks on me. Nah, Keisha Cole singing off key like I'ma spare y'all. Why you wanna judge me? I don't ever compare y'all.
Another early example of Drake's family raps, him talking to his mother about what he wants for her. He still does that even now. So yeah, he's changed a lot, but also not. You know, there's a through line to his career and his family relationships, and obviously the trouble that women have brought him. Again, another early Drake classic. It's a lot more chilled, a lot more laid back, a lot less flexing. I think, just a little bit more introspective, a little bit more vulnerable. And it's also a track that's definitely referenced, I think, on Scorpion, Drake's most recent album. I feel like there's like a sample they use where he mentions it on the track. I can't remember what it is. It's one of the early tracks on Scorpion, potentially Emotionless, maybe. Could be totally wrong. But again, like I said, it's nice to hear that even in 2018 he can reach back 10 years and, you know, and pull something from this younger version of himself.
Backstreets on my Craig David shit, the Artful Dodger, shoulder arm.
Another UK reference, referencing Craig David and the Artful Dodger. Early reference to another UK artist that, you know, Drake has drawn a lot of influence from. Definitely in the sounds that Craig David was doing back then. And I think in recent years, obviously they've reached out to each other and recognised, you know, the influence that Craig David actually had on Drake, which is again just another strange link to the music of the UK and to the culture of the UK that Drake obviously has a lot of affinity with.
Yeah, one more time before we turn the lights out, ladies and gentlemen.
Close is another fantastic track. The mixtape so far is so solid. Drake's, as I said, he's such a much more confident artist. The production is way better, much smoother, less grainy. Just 3 really strong tracks and a really strong opening to the project. The next track is called Replacement Girl and features Trey Songz. This is Drake's first sort of venture into the charts, I would say. His first attempt at pop music. I do know that he wrote the entire song, including the hook. Didn't have enough confidence at the time to, regardless of how confident he is in rap, not enough confidence to sing on this track yet. This is still just before Kanye's 808s and Heartbreaks and the rise of autotune, I guess. Singing in rap is still a bit of a no-no in the way that Drake obviously wants to do it, in that more R&B kind of spirit and bring both worlds together in a proper way. It's also a big thing as well that Drake's managed to get an artist of Trey Songz level actually on this mixtape. On the previous mixtape, he just remixed a couple of his songs and remixed a Lupe Fiasco song as well. But here he actually gets a brand new feature from Trey Songz. I believe they met at some point in Virginia, where Trey was from, at the set of a video shoot or something, and Drake used his connections to meet him. They struck up a friendship and they're still friends to this day. But yeah, this feature and this song drew a lot of eyes to this mixtape. The song itself didn't do that well. I'd probably say it flopped, but in some ways it didn't, because it got Drake noticed, and it set the stage for his actual breakthrough on his next project. I know it's a very pop rap track, very much of the time, but yeah, let's get into it.
Let me show you what it is. I was birthed up top, I was raised at the bottom of the map, where the girls all thick and the hottest nigga rap. If you looking for the good, then we got him in a trap like took it from white snakes to this friend's here at 2 up, 2 down. Anyone I know get used to me. I'm far from the man that I used to be. And this album for my fans, but yo, this hook is for my ex. Girl, you know who you are, girl. Ain't you never seen a youngin' so fly?
Replacement Girl's always been a track that I never really enjoyed. I find the beat quite annoying. Just feels a little bit try-hard from Drake's side. As I said before on his previous mixtape, he does seem to cram too many rhymes into one bar, and he does it on this. He's desperate for this song to be a success, you can hear it. And yeah, like I said, it just comes across a little bit try-harder, and potentially why it didn't do so well. But at the same time, Trey's performance is pretty good. It's just a very much of the time, early 2000s pop rap single. Just pretty generic, unfortunately. The next track is a pointer towards Drake's idolization of Kanye West, and who wouldn't, especially at this time. As a young rapper, you see someone like Kanye who came from a average background, not a particularly street guy, and just dominated the rap game for such a long period, especially when Drake was growing up. So this is Drake's freestyle over Barry Bonds, which is a song from Kanye's Graduation from 2007, which featured Lil Wayne as well. Let's get into it.
Go ahead, frame it since we getting Seinfeld on some Jerry in the lane shit. I flow far from mediocre, reps applying pressure to make them pop tones. So I keep it rocking for Pete's sake.
An interesting reference there to record labels wanting him to have a pop hit before they announced that they've signed him. There were rumours at the time that Drake had already signed to a label prior to this mixtape release, because it does look strange when you look back on it that he managed to finance a music video, get a feature from Trey Songz, and get featured on 106 & Park, which was obviously really big at the time, on BET. But yeah, so it wouldn't surprise me if Drake had a deal, and I do think maybe it fell through due to the lack of success of Replacement Girl or whatever, but he did say that he was getting pressure to get a hit. How ironic that Drake, like every rapper during this period, relied on getting that one radio hit, which would then force labels to promote your album, give you the money, give you the budget to actually go for this. But yeah, as I said, it's ironic that even Drake was searching for a hit back then, and now he can't stop making them. It's impossible. Everything you put his name on it, it's a hit.
Right there, is this interior enough for your ulterior motives? I smirk at a nigga if he's still rocking braids, and that goes out to every nigga except Trey. Hey, I'm out of here, baby.
Yeah, so on that freestyle, Drake's obviously just copying Kanye's flow, and on that track, I don't think he adds too much to it, but again, it's a freestyle over a beat on a mixtape. Back then, this is what people did. Doesn't really have much on the original. As I said, at the time, Kanye and Wayne were just so on top, and just had way more charisma and did so much more with that beat. It's also a very strange beat, thinking about it now. A really unusual beat. Just even to this day, you don't really hear very many beats like that. I think also this might be the first real reference to the first most noticeable reference to Kanye West in Drake's career. Kanye's music has long shaped Drake's career. For me, it's always been really sad, the relationship between the two. I'm a huge Drake stan and also a huge Kanye stan. Kanye is pretty much the artist that got me into hip hop back when I was in school. And I always wanted the two to work together, so their beef and their subsequent sort of parting of the ways, I guess, was a sad one for me, just because I thought that they could work together. But I also find their relationships very, very interesting. There's just so many nuances to it that we will actually look at as we go through this discography, because Kanye is a constant in Drake's career. And it's going to be interesting to sort of revisit it and see sort of, again, like another through line throughout his discography. With that said, the next track is a track called Going In For Life, which for me is a personal classic, and I think a Drake classic among many Drake fans. But ironically, the actual beat itself was produced by Kanye West, or at least one version of this instrumental was produced by Kanye West, which I think is the one that Drake's using. There's a track called Another Summer, which was a track on an album by a band or a group called 213, which actually featured Snoop Dogg, as well as a couple of others. And they rapped over this beat, and it was produced by Kanye and samples a very old soul track by, I think, someone called Eddie Fredericks, as far as I'm aware. It was also sampled on a Alicia Keys song called Unbreakable. I'm not sure where Drake would have heard it, or where his production team would have heard it, but this track itself, Going In For Life, has a fantastic concept behind it. Some of Drake's most chilled out, confident rapping, but also I would probably say that this instrumental is one of my personal favourite instrumentals of all time, definitely in the top 10. So yeah, I'm really excited to hear it again. I haven't listened to this mixtape in full for a long time, but I have listened to Going In For Life, I'd probably say within the last couple of years at some point. Yeah, let's hear it again.
I don't think they really ready for my wardrobe. I show them right before the store closed and blow the fee for my last 4 shows. What it do? I am currently recorded on a track admitting most of my currency's imported. But too late now, it's too legitimate to hit them with a lawsuit, even if those are acts that I did commit. Repeat offender. Anita Baker playing in the whip as they pull me over my sweet surrender. So efficient, you have to be invited and there's no admission. We know tradition. We spend money, so don't try to compete if you are in no position.
Do you hear that sample? It is incredible, out of this world. Kanye West just take a bow. God, I wish he produced like this these days.
Over keys like a new ignition. If Hov is Jordan, I guess I'm cool with Pippen. Till I mention that I wanna play a new position. And the takeover, the break's over, nigga. And I'ma keep killing them until the day that Drake's over. The condo that I just purchased sound vacant. Cause I have just been tricked this one session as if it were my last. And I pretend tomorrow is the day I'm going in for life like that.
Still to this day, just one of my favourite ever Drake songs. That instrumental is just unbelievable. There's not many more superlatives that I can give to that beat. I did remember as well a while ago, Earl Sweatshirt, obviously a very different kind of rapper than Drake, said that he listens to Going In For Life when he has writer's block, and I can see the inspiration that must bring out, or that beat must bring out in an MC. The next track sees Drake spit over another classic beat, this time produced by Dwele from his famous Donuts album. The track's called Where To Now. Let's just dive in.
There comes a time
when you gotta be like, you know, some denim that's overpriced and trying to make all my goals for the future come overnight. God damn how time soars. I'm trying to get the house in Toronto with pine floors. Tell me you surfing, let me know you on board. You cancel up the bottle once all of the dimes poured. Yes, cool ain't enough, homie. I'ma freeze time like that.
Yeah, Comeback Season is a lot more soulful and a lot more focused than Room for Improvement. Room for Improvement was a very scatterbrained approach. I thought very much a traditional mixtape, just leaning very much into that soulful Kanye West music, that soulful Dwele sound, much more than he did previously. And this is pretty much the last real time that he does it. After this, he finds his own lane, he finds his own sound. But yeah, this is the last time of Drake really paying homage to some of the idols that inspired him to get into rap himself. The next track is called Share. I believe features and produced by Slacker the Beat Child, who we heard a bit of on Room for Improvement. I do feel like there's a little bit of filler. The mixtape itself is very long. That was the trend obviously back then. A trend that actually has come back quite recently due to streaming numbers and all that kind of stuff. But I'm personally a fan of shorter projects, in that 10 to 12 track sort of sweet spot. But obviously back then Drake was trying to showcase as much of his talent as possible on this mixtape, so I can see why an artist would do this at this stage of their career. Yeah, let's listen to Share.
I didn't even make this beat, man. Yo, big up Hazel. Conflicting with what I do. Shout out to Kim Davis and my connect up at Avis, cause every weekend I'm rolling, I'm stuck in something new.
Share doesn't really do it for me. Like I said, it reminds me of a lot of the tracks on Room for Improvement. Just not one of those ones that's very memorable or very different. Next track is called Give Ya, and again it's another feature from Trey Songz. As I said, I think the two struck up a close friendship back at this point. There were the rumours that Drake had actually already signed a deal, and would make sense why he was able to get such big artists to be on this tape. But I also heard a rumour that Trey Songz did any feature after Replacement Girl for free, so you know, we'll never really know. I do remember Give Ya being a decent track. Let's hear it. All the Trey features are very like of the time.
Look,
in production.
And I ain't trying to get to know nobody but you. Do me a favor, tell me what's happening. I am drinking XOD and sipping some Appleton. Usually the things I desire I always apprehend. Back again, return of the Mac again. This baby girl, you heard of me, little me. Pay attention, I guarantee you it'll be. Oh shit, sweetie, I am a track's demise. I will kill this song till it actually dies. With $1,000 for a Drake jump. I gave up a lot to make it progress. I give it to you, and you take it the best. When I give you what I give you, when I give you what I give you, it ain't a woman in the world that could doubt that. I need a woman, not a girl, cause I'm about that. Canadian visitor, lady exhibitor, play me, I'll visit you, lay you in critical condition, so don't get it twisted, nigga.
It's funny because I forgot that this song features rapping Trey Songz. Rapping Trey Songz is a bit like rapping Chris Brown, that you do think that when they have such good voices, why are you bothering to rap? But at the same time, he did kill a lot of beats, and did it fairly well, to be honest. But upon like re-listening to this, this track is 10 times better in my opinion than Replacement Girl, and probably should have been the lead single. Also, Drake's verse is very now atypical of what he talks about even now. I think obviously his delivery and his cadence and his voice, I guess, have completely changed. But the content of the verse is very, very similar to the Drake that we know. He also feels a lot more comfortable on this beat than Replacement Girl. As I said, on Replacement Girl, he's definitely trying really, really hard to make that one work. But Give Ya just feels a lot more natural, a lot more smooth, a lot more in his wheelhouse. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Give Ya, apart from the line where Drake says, I'm gonna kill this song till it actually dies. I think that's probably one of his worst ever lines. So yeah, but let's continue with Trey's verse.
The Matrix, call me Mr. Anderson. I'm rambling, but at the same time, I'm spitting the flame rhyme. Baby, what's the when I give you what I give you? When I give you what I give you? When I give you what I give you? It ain't.
So even at this point, really, despite Drake feeling a little bit more confident on this tape, his performance is still dominated by Trey Songz' performance on this. Trey just still has that star quality that Drake still, needs to get. He's still reaching for at this point. Also, in hindsight, if you look at it, it's one of those songs that would have fit in both the club and on the radio, rather than Replacement Girl, which probably just would have fit on pop radio, and as I said before, didn't do very well anyway. The next track is one of my favourite tracks on the project. It features Dwele, an artist who is now known for featuring on a fair few really big Kanye West records, on Flashing Lights and on Power as well. I'm not sure whether he had featured on Flashing Lights before or after this, but it also features Little Brother, who Drake cites as a huge influence, and that you can hear on Room for Improvement and on Comeback Season how much he idolises Phonte in terms of flow, even content as well, subject matter. Phonte is definitely the early sort of person that Drake fashioned his style after, and I really appreciate that, at this point in his career, just before he blows up, he did manage to get on a track with them. Phonte also features again on another track later on, but to get on a track with these guys, to spit over a few Dilla beats as well, it's almost like a hip-hop rite of passage, I guess, spitting over Dilla beats, but it's just great to see them together, really. As I said, this is one of my favourite tracks on the project. I love coming back to this one.
Don't you got a man? Why are you trying to be my girl? Yeah, I can't believe it. Why you over there looking at me? Why your man standing right beside you? That temporary happiness he might provide you, but I know that nobody gonna do you like me. Yes, I'm playing around, it gets deep and colder. The funny thing voice in my head and she asleep on my shoulder.
A wintertime fling, you some get back from your man mistreating, but that was then, you know, some hush hush.
Everyone in Lil Brother is obviously a complete hip hop legend, but I do think, you know, this is the guy with probably the worst rap name in the world, Big Pooh. Not sure what he was thinking there. At the same time, he has got a great verse here.
On my way to the crib and somebody got a song for me. I already know what you about, cause I've been the other man, and you not gonna trap me with a silly little plan.
Met her at the bar sipping on Patron, and now it's been 3
Phonte
years
killed
off and on, cause the same page we are rarely off and on, cause when I'm in she out and when she in I'm gone. Want me to recharge her batteries, 1 minute she mad at me, next minute it's all good and I'm in her body like Grey's Anatomy. And if only her nigga knew how to manage.
Yeah, Don't You Ever Man is just one of those songs that almost kind of timeless, just such a smooth track. All three of them have great verses. Drake's verses, again, just, you know, idolizing, imitating Phonte, but at this point on this track, it's clear homage to a guy whose influence is massive on Drake. It's also really interesting as well that this track, which is very much an old school, smooth, soulful track, is sandwiched next to another track in the track list called Bitch Is Crazy, which is the next one up. Bitch Is Crazy is the first time we see Drake actually, you know, full out sing on a track on an official release. It's quite something. Having these two back to back shows the line that Drake constantly has to, you know, straddle, I guess, in terms of being the hip hop Lothario, the Mr. kind of Steel Girl kind of thing, to borrow a Trey Songz phrase, but also the hurt R&B singer as well. That, you know, so many artists have taken that lane and run with it since Drake started doing it, of course. But yeah, let's get into Bitch Is Crazy and hear the first time that Drake actually sings on a track. Who knew when first hearing this that this would become, you know, such an important aspect of hip hop going forward, and that it would become Drake's not so secret weapon.
I'd like to know if there is a chemical imbalance in your makeup. Yeah. Sometimes I wonder if you plan half of this shit before I wake up. Oh, yeah. There's drama and then expect favors when you come in town. I respect a woman, but this bitch is crazy. This bitch is crazy. Yeah. I'm saying sometimes I gotta get my R&B on, you know.
So Bitch Is Crazy is a really interesting one because in some ways you can see the sort of passive-aggressive nature of Drake's lyrics that do become a signature part of his MO on a lot of tracks going forward, and also that dichotomy between respecting women but also calling them bitches as well. He's a really interesting character in that sense, but you can also hear, you know, the sort of tongue-in-cheek way that he approaches this track. Drake obviously clearly wanted to, you know, have more of this R&B side, this element, this singing element in his music, but still didn't really feel confident doing it in a serious way. So he did it in a bit of a jokey way, sort of test the waters to see if people liked it. And he would go on so far gone to completely revamp his sound and incorporate this kind of singing into his music in a more serious way, which at the end of the day has created and generated so much of his actual success. But yeah, it's just really cool to see the birth of that, really, and the sort of early workings of what would become the Drake sound. And the next track is called The Last Hope, and features Kardinal Offishall, who up until that point would have been the biggest Canadian rapper of all time. So it's interesting again to see Drake pay homage to Canada, pay homage to Toronto, and pay homage to those who, you know, paved the way for him in Canadian rap, I guess. Obviously he's taken it to completely new heights, but I do remember really enjoying this song. Just a great beat.
Christ, the last breath of Christopher Wallace on that faithful night to succeed. Cross-border smugglers tussle to burn weed.
Such a strong hook as well.
Jealousy, something I haven't felt for years. There's nobody around for me to be jealous of. And people get behind him and they fight for him. Cause he won't let no other niggas write for him. And even when it's quite warm, the attitude coursing through the veins.
How funny that he says other rappers are scared because he won't let people write for him. Funny how times have changed. We'll talk about that when we get to If You're Reading This. Another smooth track, as I said before. It's another big look for Drake to get Kardinal Offishall on the track at this point in his career. To have you know, the biggest rapper in Canada at the time, or of Canadian descent at that time. The hook from Andreena Mill is fantastic as well. And yeah, Drake's verse is a good one. I think, you know, Kardinal has a really great verse too. The next few tracks, Must Hate Money featuring Rich Boy, Asthma Team, and the Do What You Do remix featuring Malice of the Clipse, as well as Easy to Please by Sosa and Faded. So the next, like, I think, yeah, 5 tracks. I do remember being the sort of flexing portion of the track list. I remember also not being a huge fan of all of these tracks. Hopefully upon revisit we'll gain a new appreciation for them, but I do remember these not really being as smooth and as soulful as the ones that preceded it, and the style that I much prefer myself. But let's get into it. First one is called Must Hate Money. Maybe I was wrong. It's pretty simple.
I wish you could have seen me back in high school. Backpack, gray range, black act, put a half a stack out. Just started out about a boy like Hugh Grant. Now I'm a young man doing things
UK reference.
You must hate money. Guaranteed if you had it to spend, you could probably comprehend. I'm just saying, man, you must hate money. Baby, my niggas in Jamaica, I say, baby, get low. You just getting by. They hating cause my swag is at an all-time high.
Enjoyed Must Hate Money much more than I thought I was going to. I obviously now I remember it, obviously having listened to it again, but yeah, I didn't remember it being like that. Please do correct me in the comments as well. Are Rich Boy and Rich the Kid, are they the same guy? They sound like so similar. And also Drake's flowing on this, but also the flow that reminds me so much of the tracks that would come really soon after this, where he collaborated with Wayne so often. He even sounds a bit like Wayne on this track in terms of flow. Just an enjoyable bouncing track, and again, like I said, a lot more soulful than I expected. The next track is called Asthma Team.
Swear to you, Lord, same dudes used to laugh at me. See me in a CL6 with half a B, they blast the scene. I have the dream, but dawg, me and success are two things you don't wanna find your ass between. Nothing left to do here. Every day is Christmas and every night is New Year's.
Yeah, not a huge fan of Asthma Team. I just don't think that Drake fits on this kind of music at all. Especially back then. Yeah, just not a great track in my opinion. The next track is a Do What You Do remix. I think Do What You Do was on the last mixtape, as far as I remember. But again, massive to have Malice remixing it. Again, ironic seeing with Drake's situation with Pusha T these days. We do know that Drake was obviously a huge fan of the Neptunes and the Clipse back then anyway, despite what's happened now.
Slow motion, stepping out the phantom, all eyes on me, peeking and glancing. We get this paper, cause that's how we do, yeah.
Your verses I'm writing, you might wanna learn it. You hating my song, but your wife wanna burn it. Learn it, cause if you bring them this home to your girl, she'll forget you, and I'll be the only one she concerned with.
Drake goes in on his new verse. You can hear as well that he's desperate to impress. Because of Malice being on this remix, he's going to get a lot of eyes. He goes in, and you can also hear that he thinks he's made it here. He thinks that this is the time. As I said before at the start of the project, there's a lot more confidence, a lot more feeling that this is the one that's going to tip him over the edge, and it does get him noticed. Malice's verse is okay. But Drake completely goes in on that track. The next track is called Easy to Please and features someone called Richie Sosa. Again, these two tracks I do remember being some of my least favourite on the project, especially with what follows them. But yeah, let's get into it.
offer twice, I'm awful nice. Lyrics that I often write, inspire no talent rappers to get off the mic. No sign of something like no time. They'll be trying to sub a nigga in like quiz knows.
I never lived in a fancy house. I grew up with the guns popped in the chopper, let's pull the candy out. So
Easy to please, it's alright. I'm just not a huge fan of it. I think it's okay. I don't hate it, just don't love it. Yeah, not much to say about it. The beat's a little bit annoying as well, apart from during the hook where it builds up and it's pretty cool. Yeah, next track, it is called Faded. Again, like I said, I do remember not really enjoying this track.
Damn, what did I consume? Something spinning fast, either me or it's the room. I be low. Okay, maybe I don't, but guarantee someone I know. Wait, hide small, so drop me in and I release this like every record that I've done. The station here to play it. This is
Yeah, not a huge fan of Faded. He definitely comes across as though he's doing a little bit of an impression of Lil Wayne in the verses. And yeah, just the beat's annoying, the hook's annoying, just not great. Glad it's a short track. Next track though is it's called Underdog, another feature from Trey Songz. I do remember it's rapping Trey Songz. It's funny that Trey seems to use Drake as a sort of launching board or a platform for his own kind of rapping section of his career. I do remember loving Underdog. It's just a fun track. You can hear that there's a lot of chemistry between the two as well. So yeah, let's just dive into it.
I ain't never been nothing but an underdog. I still ride in the truck with my mind on the knob. These niggas never take what I got for my underdog. Just caught new shoes, whip on tutu. Back like spinal, stack like dominoes. Catch me out in Mexico, hasta mañana. Hasta la vista, chest full of reefer. Rap for my set till the day I meet the reaper. Ain't never been scared, I ain't never been. Yeah, I ain't never been nothing but an underdog, but I'm never under y'all. Underdog, but I still ride in the truck with my mind on the knob. Yeah, niggas never take what I got. Said I got my city buzzing, you should take a trip and view it. Shout out to Mr. Rogers, cause he supposed to chop and screw it. I never rendezvous it, I'm just in the bird with trigger and I'm faded off the fluid. I made a lot of money, then I went ahead and blew it. Now I'm trying to make it back, so how the fuck you wanna do it? My nigga, you better do it. Ay, Hollywood just acting wrong. What up the Jackie Long? I fuck with Jackie Long. I clown other dudes on the low, I like to laugh alone. If your clock is on, I am a trader and I'm telling you my stock is grown. Like the lock is gone, keys out, I ain't talking white though. Baby, what you bees about? I mean for tonight, ho. Mind on the knob, these niggas never take what I got.
There's something so infectious about that song. As you can see, yeah, I was rapping along to it. I remember it so clearly, even these years later. I listened to that song a lot when I was a kid. It's just two guys on the come up, one obviously a little bit further than the other, but yeah, just the confidence, the joy, the fun in those verses, just such a great enjoyable track. Not like a great beat, not a great hook, but just the energy both of them bring really makes that song. The next track is Think Good Thoughts, produced by Ninth Wonder and features Little Brother again, one of my favourites. The Ninth Wonder beat is fantastic, of course, his beats are always fantastic. And yeah, again, it's just great to see Drake connect with these guys who had such an early influence on his career and on his style, I guess, that he really did try and emulate in the early stages of his rap journey. Yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah. Ninth Wonder. Don't judge me, man. We know what you're thinking, love. You think we out smoking and drinking, love. Push it late, love. But y'all really know me like you think you know me. They don't be saying that I'm humble, I'm hella nice. But that I've been approached to sign a Rockefeller twice. They just tell you all the rumors they heard, and we laugh soon as you come and tell me like I'm Ellen Bryce. Where they at? Well, when they are all unhappy, then it gets a little sticky. That's why I am Little Nicky to these devils in rap. But they probably think I break your heart, girl. I can't lie, you probably right about it. And if you give me the ass quick, I'll probably write about it. But you the reason I'm thinking I'm getting sick of rapping. We know what you're thinking, love. You think, but you don't really know me like you think you know me. You probably think I walk around with my gun tucked and swing dick to these hoes like nunchucks. Well, you can think what you want, but I think you've been watching too much BET Uncut. I gladly oblige. First name Phonte, I'll be pleased to date you. College educated, got degrees and papers. Shit, I'm well read like sunburn, and after me you never leave no stone unturned. Love, Push your big whips, change, clink, and love. But y'all really know me like you think you know me.
Shit. My bad, I can't even really drop the rest of this because I ain't paid $9 for the beat yet, so.
Forgot he did this.
I don't want to anger that man. What up to 4040? You know.
Think Good Thoughts is just an amazing track. It's just one of those ones that really stands up at the test of time. Ninth Wonder beats are pretty timeless. Just a smooth, soulful cut. Phonte does amazing. I think the Elzhi verse is out there, maybe on YouTube or something. As he said there, he hadn't paid Ninth for the beats, so it didn't feel like he could use the full verse. But yeah, I think these tracks, like this one and Don't You Have a Man, they're the perfect example of what this tape's going for. Paying homage to the likes of Lil Brother and Slum Village and Ninth Wonder and all those guys, and Jay Dilla. It's the hip hop that I grew up on. That sort of mix between more accessible, conscious hip hop, I guess. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Think Good Thoughts, one of my favourite tracks on the project. And then Drake ends it with a fair few shout outs, which is quite nice as well, because you see the early beginnings of OVO as a brand. You hear him talk about Phonte, which is obviously his producer, and then Oliver as well, who is the head of the OVO brand, really. Involved in the fashion side, the music curation side, you know, all sorts of stuff like that, and looking after the artists that are signed to OVO as well as Drake himself. Yeah, just a cool little thing. It's a little bit cheesy, him shouting out these people, but as I said, it's great to see the brand in its early edition when it was still called ATF, and to watch how it evolves sort of from here to So Far Gone, to Take Care, to, you know, all these kind of things where the OVO brand just becomes so strong. Think Good Thoughts is kind of the last real track on the project, but he has included a few remixes as well. A sign of the times, really, when this came out. It was very much remix culture, where all rappers were, you know, uploading their own remixes of people's work online for free. There were no sort of issues with copyright and all that kind of stuff at that time, or not the same kind of issues with copyright. So the first one is Teach You a Lesson, which is a Robin Thicke song, which Drake has added a verse to.
Me and you so crucial, baby, and that champagne so fuchsia, baby. I do things that you ain't used to, baby. Love on my feedback. Tell me to give it to you if you need that. Touch right there, whatever the speed's at. If it's over fast, then I promise you a relapse. Cause mine's Polo, yours is Vicky, and they just spread all over the floor. So good. You smell so good.
So yeah, Drake adds a nice verse to that using his whisper flow. I think he fits well on this. The whisper flow is again a little bit cheesy. Some of his lines are a little bit cheesy as well, but it fits the genre of the time. And the song itself is a classic R&B song. You know, whatever you think of Robin Thicke these days, that song is incredible, really. The next remix included is Missin You, a remix of Trey Songz track, which was a big, you know, R&B pop crossover. Yeah, I do remember enjoying this one quite a bit. I believe Drake's verse is quite good on this as well.
No. Nah, I never needed advice about all the things you like to do when it was lights out. I drove nice cars, I got a nice house. People, but you can bounce back. Go ladies, more records, more sex, more babies. Yeah, tired of missing you, I'm trying to make you a miss. I miss the way you kiss, miss the way you wear them heels and make it switch. I try to replace you with, why can't I get over it? Missing you, stop. When show was still with you, I can't stop missing you. No, I can't.
Forgot how much I enjoyed that song. It's a great mesh of you know, the R&B of the time and the pop music of the time. Yeah, Drake's verse I think is cool. He slides on it very well. Trey Songz and Drake obviously have a great chemistry. It's catchy, it's got bounce, and it's just one of those ones that would have fit so well on radio at the time. The next one is the last one on the mixtape, and it's a remix of a song by Briscoe called Man of the Year, which featured Lil Wayne. The really interesting thing about this track is that I believe this is the actual one that caught the notice of Lil Wayne, caught the notice of Cortez Bryant, his manager and the founder of Young Money as an actual label itself. Yeah, let's listen to it.
Damn, I done walked in here looking like the motherfucking man of the year. old, I'm the reason they expire. Plus I got a city that I carry like Mariah. Damn, that punchline was predictable. The shit is easy, pop. That's why I'm ready, man. I didn't walk in here. I feel like the motherfucking man of the year. Ain't no nigga like a young money nigga. Ain't no nigga like me. On my music in the comfort of your home. Nigga be a man. You acting like a bitch. I ain't acting like I'm rude. I'm just acting like I'm rich.
You can see on hearing this track that Wayne would love this, just purely because on the first verse it's kind of like Drake doing an impression of Wayne. Sounds very similar to him with the punchlines that were in fashion back then. And then on the second verse, there's just so much personality from Drake himself, differentiates himself from Wayne. And then with the two voices together, Wayne on the hook and Drake in the verse, they sound good together. You can see that there'd be chemistry between the two even before they've even really worked together. Yeah, it's just one of those tracks that feels like not a crowning moment, but a special moment in Drake's career. And as I said, one that really does create the launch pad that leads him to becoming the artist that we see today. That's the end of comeback season. Thank you for joining me on this nostalgia trip. Really enjoyed listening to some of these tracks that, you know, I love, used to listen to over and over again back when I was like 17 or whatever. But yeah, you can see the growth really from Room for Improvement to this. With Drake, when you listen to the two mixtapes back to back, it's not a crazy improvement, but there is, you know, better production choices from Drake. You can see the beginnings of him trying to experiment, to start singing, but also you see him pay homage to his influences in a more direct way with Phonte and Ninth Wonder. Getting involved with the likes of Trey Songz and Lil Wayne's music, and you know, you can hear that in his flow and in his cadence. And as I said before, he's not, you know, the Drake that we know today in terms of having this, you know, dominant mic presence, but he's way more confident in his delivery, way clearer, way less rushed in his rhymes, and just, you know, audibly improving as an MC. And while So Far Gone is the you know, development of him as an actual, you know, musical artist, here on Comeback Season, it's the development of him as an MC. I think Comeback Season is obviously like Room for Improvement, viewed so differently in hindsight, but I do think it's a solid project. You can see the potential. There are some great tracks on there, there are some not great tracks on there. It's obviously quite dated as well in the style of rhyming and in some of the production choices, but it really is an artist finding their feet, and I think by the end of the project you can actually hear him finding his feet. Like I said, you can hear the OVO brand beginning to build, obviously back then as ATF. You know, Drake's closer and closer with Phonte, who would become, you know, a guiding hand, as well as, you know, Lil Wayne, who would also become such an influence on him and push him towards stardom. So yeah, thanks for joining me again on this journey through Drake's discography. It's great to go back and listen to this stuff and see the through lines through his career, through his discography. Next up will obviously be So Far Gone, Drake's real breakthrough moment, and I'm really excited to get into this period of time. Really, as I said, it's got a lot of memories for me, but also it's the birth of the artist as we know him today, really. As he begins to bring together, you know, R&B, hip hop in a more unique way than has probably ever been done before. Yeah, if you enjoyed the video, please do subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave me a comment. What was your favourite track on Comeback Season, and what's your favourite Drake project overall? I do obviously have my own favourites, which I will reveal as we get to them, but I'm really interested to hear from you guys. Please also do follow me on all the social media links below. Read my blog for more sort of long form written content on music. And also, yeah, like I said, get involved in the conversation on social media. Keep an eye out for the So Far Gone revisit, which will be, you know, probably next week at some point. But apart from that, have a great day, stay safe, stay at home, and try and keep as sane as possible. Thanks.